Hello, everybody. So I'm exceptionally excited this morning because I'm here to introduce our leader from the Leading Dragons. So, hi, Deborah. This is your show. Let me introduce myself quickly. I'm Jessica, and I lead a community group here in Switzerland along La Côte, which is for women, a support group to look after each other and to stick strong in the community with regular events and really being there for each other as a support. So Deborah has been so exceptionally kind this morning to speak to us on the theme of mindfulness, and in fact on the topic of how she mindfully healed from a burnout, which I think is just such a fantastic, deep topic, and wonderful that you're able to share with us and with our community. I feel that it's a really inspirational story. So thank you for your time.
Jessica, the honor is mine. Thank you so much for inviting me and giving me this opportunity to share my story and to share the insights and the learnings that I got from it. And also, I wanted to put it out there, Jessica, but you are such an energetic, magnetic soul in a meat suit, and you are just so wonderful, and especially you're a fantastic community builder. And so this session is particularly, well, everyone is welcome, and it's particularly for Coffee and Bubbles, which is a huge community that you, Jessica, you built. How many members have we got so far?
Around 800. Yeah, so quite a few women. Yes, thank you. It's yeah.
And no doubt, community, being a member of a community, at least one, has really helped us, especially in the last year and a half with the pandemic outbreak. So, okay, so let's just crack on. So perhaps as members of Coffee and Bubbles, you've just arrived in Switzerland, and it's all new to you. Perhaps a new language, a new system, new schools, and it's all a bit daunting. And you're feeling a little bit lost or overwhelmed. It could be also that you've been here for a few years, living on the Côte of Geneva, Lake Geneva, and you still somehow don't feel like totally integrated. Because it is indeed such a melting pot and people coming and going all the time. And it could be also that with the pandemic outbreak in March last year, it brought to the surface many, many things. And I think it did that for most, if not all of us. Yeah. So things that have been brought to the surface that we perhaps taken for granted, and also perhaps things that we chose to ignore out of comfort. And personally, for me, I see the pandemic as like a space. It's like a space in our lifetime. And I call it the magnifying glass, because it was an invitation for all of us to slow down and to take stock of where we're at, to take stock of how we've been living our lives, and basically a magnifying glass to look at ourselves, to look at others in our life, and to look at our life and how we situate ourselves and how we're leading our lives. So pre-pandemic, I was working in a bank. I'd been working there for 3 years, and there was one morning when I was walking, and it was a cold November morning, and I was walking to the bank, so it was in Geneva. And little did I know that I was actually burnt out, and I was just watching one foot go in front of the other, and I was watching my feet walk forwards towards the building. So it was like I was kind of having a bit of a third party experience, an out of body experience. And then as I get to the bank and I go to the floor, the 7th floor, where we were hot desking, and I sit down and start setting up my computer and my files and that, and I see a cup of coffee on the desk, untouched. And I'm like, oh my gosh, so somebody who was here yesterday didn't basically didn't touch it and didn't put it away, because there was a very strict policy that by the end of the day we had to clean all the desks. But so I reached out to grab it, and when I did that, it was hot. It was actually my cup of coffee that I had picked up from the coffee machine. And then later that morning, I opened my email, and the text in an email was, all I could see was just words next to each other, and they made no sense anymore. So this was that morning when I realized that something was really wrong, and it was time that I go and see my doctor. So off I go later in the afternoon. I still had to be, kind of pushed a little bit by a colleague of mine called Alain, who was a great colleague of mine. Excuse me. And he said, no, Deborah, seriously, I think it's you need some time off. So I go to the doctor's, and I'm sitting in his practice, and so he says, okay, well, you're not really making much sense. I don't really need to see you for too long, because it's very clear the diagnosis is you're quite quite advanced in your burnout. And I didn't really know what that meant. And he said, if you had listened to me, back in May, you would have, you wouldn't be where you are today. And he goes, now it's November, and I did tell you the longer you stay there without a break, the longer the recuperation period is going to be from your burnout. So I'm like, okay. All right. So what shall I ask my employer? 2 weeks off sick leave? He's like he's looking at me like as if I'm speaking Chinese or he's speaking Greek or whatever. And then he says, he goes, Mrs. Abbott, he goes, this is not project management. And I was like, okay, 3 weeks. 3 weeks is a lot of time. 3 weeks, sick leave, perfect. I'll be back on the ball, no problem. So it did take a bit of time to sink in. And he said, I'm going to sign you off a month. And I was like, a month? I can't be away for a month. You're joking. Like, what? And anyway, so he did. And I went home. And I wasn't quite sure at the beginning what to do with myself. But then that was the beginning of what I call the inner collapse. I had so many unanswered questions. I was like, okay, so how long is this going to be? What is this going to look like? What does burnout really mean? How is it going to affect me every day? How's it going to affect me longer term? Will I be able to function like before? Should I take those antidepressants? What's going to happen to all these things? And basically, when can I go back to the bank? I mean, that was my number one concern. I had to go back. I was working on this ginormous project that was actually a global project. And and I felt, and the first thing I felt was guilt, right? Because I'm like, oh my gosh, I feel really guilty. I've just let all my colleagues down. I'm going to have to kind of explain that I'm a bit, off sick, but not with just a cold for 3 days, but a bit longer than that. And so I started having these inner conflicts. And then so the inner collapse, it was that period, and it lasted a good 4 months, where I'd wake up in the mornings for the kids, I'd make them breakfast, get them ready for school, take them to school, and then I go back to bed. I go back to bed from 9 a.m. to midday, and I put my alarm on, wake up, go make some lunch, and then do the same thing, go back to bed. And the idea of running a bath was just too much for me. The thought was just so overwhelming. It was a dark time, and it was quite a scary time. And so I closed in on myself, and I was trying to look for answers. And then I realized that actually they're not going to be answers. The answers are not going to come because I ask the questions. They're going to come when they come. So it taught me a huge thing a huge thing for me, who was somebody who was like a high achiever, a maximizer, in the first 45 years of my life. It taught me to let go, and to let go of outcomes, to let go of expectations, to let go of judgments from others, to let go of certainty, because now I was in an uncertain kind of like spiral, and I had there was no coming out. There's no like kind of like clinging onto the edges, or holding my breath. I was going down. This was the inner collapse, and everything that I had built, I started realizing things, and it's quite scary, because when you start seeing things, you can't unsee them afterwards. Mm-hmm. I started realizing how I was actually living my life. I talked about worth, and that my self-worth was all around how other people's perception of me and my work, and basically what I produced. So after those, it was a few months, I would say probably like 4 or 5 months, then the healing began. And the healing began because I had gone down, and I was starting to come back up, but gently, and it happened just naturally. I had completely let go, and I was just managing day to day with the children, and with myself, and with the family, basically. And the healing began, and the healing taught me many things. It taught me about letting go. It taught me about allowing to be not okay. Do you remember we had that day last year? We had a not okay day. It's okay not to be okay. And and I realized how much, how much guilt and shame and blame that I'd give myself if I was not okay, or I was not producing to the expectations of. And I learned a lot about power. And power is a huge thing, because it's power is actually the ability to define. And when you understand that, you start looking around every single relationship that you have in your life. And so the power, if somebody says something about you, about me, now if I take that personally, I'm giving away my power over to them. However, if I allow them to say what they need to say because it's coming from them, then I've still got my power. So I had to start reclaiming my power. And it's a very, I would say there's a lot of reflection and spiritual growth as well with that. Because I realized that I had completely got disconnected from myself, and that I had no self-love. I had no relationship with myself, in fact. I was always living as a mirror to others. And so the healing was also about my personal values, and about resetting myself and becoming a human being. So what's that got to do with mindfulness? So, well, it's I'd like to go into beliefs, because I know we talk a lot about mindfulness. We talk about mindful eating, mindful living, and personally, I'd been over 20 years. I thought I was living mindfully, because I was eating mindfully. I was practicing yoga. I've been practicing yoga for more than 20 years, with that discipline. I was doing physical activity every week. I was busy with the kids, and all this. I thought, so I had these beliefs around mindfulness that actually were not necessarily real. They did not allow me to be truly mindful in my life. So, for example, the beliefs I had was, I'm leading a healthy life. So that was with the yoga, the eating, and the physical activity. I had a belief that I'm worthy because I'm appreciated by others. So that was my belief. So I believed that in order to be worthy, I had to be approved by others. So my family, my friends, my neighbors, community, work colleagues, everyone. And another belief I had is that I could pick up, but at the moment I had to put myself on standby for now. And I thought, well, that's being mindful, because I know that I'm making a conscious decision of putting myself on standby whilst I finish this huge project when I was working at the bank, whilst I finished building the house, whilst I had a super packed life. And that didn't serve me. In fact, it was quite detrimental. So I just didn't know just how far away from the truth I was around those beliefs. And so going back to mindfulness, I believe that there's a lot more to it than just how we live our lives and how we look after our bodies on a day, and how we look after our homes, and how we look after our spouses, and how we look after our children, and how we look after everybody around us. I had forgotten how to look after myself.
Yeah.
So who was I before compared to now? Well, before I was a box checker. So I was always ticking boxes, and that was my worth. I would tick, 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 tick. So I was living in the past or in the future. As long as I kept ticking the boxes, I was okay. I was doing the right thing. I was on the right track. Yeah. Whereas today, I'm fully present. I'm living in the now. I don't need to tick boxes to be me and to be worthy of who I am. Back then, I was a human doing, just doing, busy. And today, I'm a human being, and that's the spirit of leading dragons. Myself.
Could you speak about leading dragons, because I didn't introduce that part?
I will. So the leading dragons is the outcome of my healing. Yeah, and my self-worth, and like I said, measured by others, whereas today my self-worth, I grant my self-worth to myself. I don't need approval. I genuinely don't need approval from others anymore. And that's such a huge liberation. It's like it's so much freedom, it's sovereignty, it's personal sovereignty. And all the blame, the guilt, and the shame, and all the other fear-driven beliefs and thoughts and emotions and behaviors have washed away. And because I've moved into a space of courage and faith, of love, and I've learned about self-love, and I've learned about self-compassion. And for me, that is what mindfulness is. It's about reconnecting with our core self and having a relationship with ourselves first. So from there, I don't know. Should I just move? Basically, I can talk about leading dragons, or do you want? We can pause for any questions, because I'm very happy to take questions as well.
So I've just asked if there's any participants who would like to ask any questions. There's a little question box where you can type away, and I will gladly ask Deborah on your behalf. Deborah, I think that, leading dragons was such a fantastic idea that came to you and through the healing process. And I wanted to congratulate you on that. Can you share with the group a little bit more about what exactly leading dragons is and how it helped you on your healing path?
Yeah. So leading dragons was inspired on the back of my healing journey that was 2 years. And I think perhaps we're always healing. It's not a destination, is it? It's sort of a journey, a path that keeps going. And I was being guided and accompanied by a Taoist who lives in Hawaii and who's a friend now. And he, as a Taoist, why Taoism? Why did I choose him? Well, when I was in the depths of the despair, I thought, I just need help. I'm completely lost. I mean, who's going to help me? And I was seeing a psychologist weekly, and that was very helpful. But I felt, for me, I needed something deeper than that. I needed something more, I don't know what it was. I was something like a bigger than psychology. And so I was desperately like just searching. I don't know what I was searching for, but I was looking. And then I came across his website, and I started looking at the content in his website and the videos. And he talks about flow, and he talks about spirit, and he talks about heart, and how all of there's so much disconnect in society today that so many people are burnt out. So there's so much disease in Western society because we're so disconnected from self, we're disconnected from nature, we're disconnected from one another because of all these labels and these divisions and these categories that people are being put in boxes. Exactly, yeah. And so the dragon is the symbol of the spirit. And I've been now a leadership facilitator, and I work in talent development inside organizations for 15 years now. And leading dragons, so I've left the bank naturally. It was a bit difficult to extract myself, but I did. And I set up Leading Dragons because I help people inside corporations, so preferably people. When I say I help people, because organizations don't change, people do. So I accompany people and their teams into revisiting the way that they work together individually and collectively from heart and spirit, and to find smarter systems and smarter ways of working together for greater sustainability at work. And Leading Dragons was actually born also not only from the inspiration of my Taoist guide, but also from my rage to see that 1 in 3 people in managerial positions in Switzerland are on antidepressants for a long time, and but there's this normalization around it, that it's okay. And I'm not saying it's not okay. I have no judgment around that itself, but it's symptomatic of something much bigger, which is the way that the organizations are run, the way that organizations are led, and how it's okay that, majority. I mean, if I pull out the Gallup figures of disengagement of employees around the world, I think across 250,000 companies they surveyed, it's like more than 80% of people inside organizations are disengaged. And so so from here I founded Leading Dragons, and because I believe that if we all reconnect with ourselves, not only organizations, but I think society would be a lot healthier. So
thank you for that. To some of the women who are listening who are potentially going through a burnout themselves and maybe don't even realize it, I thought that was really powerful, how you were explaining, about counting your footsteps, and just the kind of the idea about the coffee, and how sometimes maybe we don't even realize what's happening to us. What would you say were the kind of 3 warning signs that we could pick up on to make that click that I think I need to see my doctor?
I love that question, Jessica. I think it's a very important one, and it's something that I'm working on right now with a company, and it's around prevention, burnout prevention. The thing is that it's a trick question, because if if you have like a profile a bit like me, you'll just ignore the signals until you have a massive jolt, and the universe goes, okay, smack. There you go. You haven't been listening to me for so many years. You need a big wall to smack into. So here you go. But no, I mean, I think it goes back to that mindfulness, isn't it? So how mindful are we, not only with our state, because even when we know that we're putting ourselves on standby, that we haven't spent time out for some tender loving care moments, some meditative moments, some moments in nature, just, replenishing our own resourcefulness. Even so, when we know that, don't let it just drag on, because weeks become months, and then a month becomes 2 months, and then it becomes 3 months. And you're like, okay, yeah, I know I haven't been doing this for like 3 months or 4 months. And that's what I was doing. I was like, yeah, I haven't done any exercise for like 3 months. And then, but you start getting into this cycle, and you're like, oh, it's okay, I'll start next week. And then next week, no, but I can't possibly, you're having like all these these battles with yourself, and you're going, I can't, this week it's like really chocker, but after Christmas I'll start, definitely. And then you're exhausted. And, and so it's that being mindful about the self-talk and writing it down. I think that would really help. To gain perspective. So I would say, first of all, whatever you do, don't dismiss it and go, oh, it's fine, it's okay, I can put myself on standby. No, you can't. So that's the first thing I would say. The second thing is I would from there I would talk to people about it. So I would talk to your spouse, or perhaps one of your parents, or a close friend, or perhaps even somebody in HR, just to bring it to the surface. So you're not sitting with it on your own, trying to fight it off and ignore it, but you're actually making it more and more alive. You're making it real, and it's becoming it is actually a real issue, and you're not just like pushing it on the side all the time, because that's what I did. And then perhaps also go sooner rather than later to your doctor, because that's also somebody who you could speak to, even if you feel like no, it's I can't do that, he's got better things to do, and he's that I think there's bringing it to the surface and sharing it, and actually doing things earlier, forcing yourself to do things, speak about it earlier, write about it earlier, and book that appointment with your doctor early on, right at the beginning, if it feels off. So yeah, I think that's that. We've got Hedin. Good morning, Hedin.
Hello. So let's have a look at this question. How competitive were you at work, Deborah? And when you were young, did you want to show everyone that you were the person at work? So were you incredibly ambitious?
Spot on, Hedin, spot on. You know me. Yeah. So Hedin is a dragon. And definitely, yes, I was completely. I was, how competitive was I? I mean, it was all about my self-worth, right? So my self-worth was entirely measured by, I'll just put that up there. My self-worth was entirely measured by others, and I'd keep at it and keep, doing, I was doing very long hours. So I was competing with myself. This is what's amazing. I was competing ultimately with myself, and I wasn't happy with I had to kind of negotiate with myself, go, okay, I've got 5 more emails that I have to respond to, because my ego was right there, was leading me. It was leading me.
But I find that, that's a massive shift though, Deborah, to have gone from that position into one about not caring what other people think, as you mentioned before, and really that self-love. How on earth, what were the steps of mindfulness put into place to get from that ambitious, self-competitive state into something where it turned into self-love?
There was a book that I had picked up. It was more accidental, and it was at the beginning of my when I was on sick leave, from my burnout. A book that I picked up, and it's a beautiful book. It's very easy to read, and it's very, very powerful and very helpful. And it's called Lost Connections, and it's by an Israeli New Yorker called Johan Hari. Yeah. And Johan Hari goes on this quest around the world to find out what, about depression and about burnout, and what is this about antidepressants? Why are people on them for so long? Because he started at the age of 13, and he goes through the book and he gives us these shocking statistics around the efficacy of antidepressants, and what so many other key elements in our lives that are missing. So that's a really great book that helped me hugely. Jessica, I think everyone has their own story, and I can't say like, it's like step 1, step 2, step 3. But it starts with, are you ready to get real with yourself?
Make that change.
Honestly, I couldn't have done it without my Taoist friend, Casey. He really held my hand, although he was like right on the other side of the world. But I think reach out. So if anyone who's listening, feels that they just need to have a chat, I'm here. I'm here to help in any way that I can, and I'm here to hold your hand, because it is scary, and it's so much. I mean, the first big thing that I had to learn was to let go. And letting go was just so ginormous, because it was like, oh my gosh, it's like letting go letting go of what's going to happen, letting go of any being attached to outcomes, being attached to judgment, being attached to anxiety, being attached to criticism, being attached to rejection, being attached to all these things that hold you back and prevent you from, becoming, and also allowing it. There are 3 pillars to Taoism. It's kindness, non-judgment, and acceptance. And I would say I'd probably like to leave the listeners and you, Jessica, with those 3 pillars.
Yes.
So kindness is all. It's not about being nice to everyone and saying yes, of course I can do that. Yeah, no. It's kindness is about compassion, and compassion starts with self. So what is self-compassion? Is first of all reconnecting with self and knowing what you need and what you believe in. What do you really believe in? Who are you really? And it's like getting ready to strip away all those layers of conditioning that since that were put on you since you were born. Really, even in the hospital, they put that plastic bracelet around the newborn's wrist with a name on it. Oh, but you're Jessica. Jessica doesn't do that. Jessica does this.
No, but I do.
Do you know what I mean? And then it's like, and so that's what we do. We judge one another. We have because we see how everyone sees another person through their own lens. And so then there's these expectations that are set in very, very early on in a relationship, in a friendship. Yeah. So it's I'm kind of diverting here, aren't I?
Oh,
so
we love it.
This is about self-compassion. So self-compassion. So that's the kindness pillar. Kindness is also knowing your boundaries. That's a huge one. You can sit down with yourself, and go through, well, what were and I was saying this to a friend early yesterday who came to the house, and she was crying, and I said, listen, I'm not going to say her name, but I said, if you're not clear with your boundaries, you can't expect anyone else to be clear about your boundaries if you don't know what your boundaries are. So not only do you have to be crystal clear with your boundaries, but you've got to articulate them. You don't articulate them, nobody's going to guess them, let alone your kids. So that's all around the kindness piece. And then there's the second pillar of Taoism is non-judgment. And non-judgment is allowing, so it's okay not to be okay. Going back to that, it's like, that means that it's okay, it's all right, it's there's no judgment attached to that. Oh, you're weak, what's the matter with you? Oh, you're incapable of, you're whatever, all the self-talk that we're so good at doing, right? Well, that's what I was pretty good at that. And non-judgment towards others, and just allowing people to as they show up when you see them. Everyone's different, everyone has different days. We're not like this, we're not mechanical beings. And So that's, yeah, non-judgment, because also by just allowing, it just allows all of us to be more present and just be with the person in the now, and then be able to truly serve them in the now. And it's just being more relevant with everything. And then the third pillar, and then there's Hedin, who's asked another question, I think, which is so I said kindness, non-judgment, and acceptance. And acceptance is a third one. Accepting is also part of allowing, just accepting things as they are, because through accepting we can forgive ourselves, and we can forgive others. So I try and live by that every day, because it makes so much sense, and it comes from a completely different place than the place as a human doing before, which was a place of fear. So it's through courage that I'm able to, honor those three pillars as best as I can. I'm not perfect. I'm far from perfect. But I do have them as reference points and a philosophy every day, how I am with myself, how I am with others, how I am with the kids. So I hope that helps.
That does help. Thank you. I just wanted to go off that quickly before we look at your question. Surely listening to this, though, about you speaking about the barriers and the walls and the boxes, surely this goes all back to educational input already from the word go at school, as you said, that we're almost born with the bracelet, as you mentioned, and confined. Isn't it something which surely by now in 2021 we should be teaching young people early, these tricks about self-love, for example, and about self-acceptance? Do you feel that we're missing something here as humanity, at least from what we see around us, in terms of not teaching the right tricks to love ourselves more, instead of seeing it as, say, vanity or egotistical reasoning, that in fact it's something which is wholesome and it's good for us and it will help us be happier and more positive in our life?
Wow, Jessica, I love your questions. They're so powerful.
Oh, sorry. I haven't coffee this morning.
Yeah, how many coffees have you had? I think we're massively. I don't know if we're missing the point. My question is more like, are we truly concerned of making a fundamental change around that? And we are, and I have to say it because I don't beat about the bush anymore, we are tricked into victimhood at a very early age. So at a very early age, even in kindergarten, you're putting your child in this structure. You're putting your child in this system. This is how it works over here. Here are the rules and regulations. This is what your child can and can't do. This is what we don't accept. And you shut your mouth and you do as you're told. And that's a system. So it's about holding up the system. I don't know if in some countries, I'd be interested actually if in Iceland, because Hedin is the Chief Happiness Officer of Iceland, and he's with us.
Chief Happiness Officer. Yeah. Wow, that's fantastic.
The best job in the world, right? Totally, best job in the world. So Hedin, I'm really interested about Iceland. In schools, if they teach the kids to embrace to discover their sovereign selves and who they are, and they truly authentically embrace their uniqueness and their diversity is always in relation to, so I don't really like that word diversity. It's like a comparison. It's our uniqueness. We're all different. There's
a smiley face.
And I think, when I said we're tricked into victimhood, and, we go from kindergarten to school, it's another system. So you've got to fill in the papers and you do as you're told, which is fine. And I get that. Otherwise, it's not a system. It's a construct. But then inside the system, how much leeway is there to enable, each unique pupil, student to express themselves and to develop themselves more naturally, I think it's there's so much work to be done there.
Thank you. So what did Hedden say before? Let's have a look. So it's all about the balance in life, work and home life. Sure is. Yeah. We need time to realize it. Some get it early and others need a doctor's appointment to get it.
Yeah.
I wish it wasn't that way, but I think it's that way for most of us probably.
I think the thing here is actually, it's a bigger question, and it's around the normalization. And actually, this word I use quite a bit in my everyday, when I express myself every day, because so many things are normalized that are not normal. So if I was to talk about organization, I was talking about disease earlier inside organizations, disconnect. Oh, it's fine, it's okay. Yeah, there are 1 in 3 people who are on antidepressants in Switzerland. It's okay, it's normal. It's like, wow, what is normal for you and what is not normal for you, and what is normal in society doesn't mean that it's normal. It doesn't mean that it's okay. And I think that it's if we can each reconnect with our core souls and our core self, we would be able to answer that question with ourself. Because as long as we keep looking for the answers on the outside, well, we will always be disconnected from self. But our truth and our authentic truth and our core self starts from within. Change is an inside job, isn't it? So start with answers from inside, and if it's normal for you truly, then that's fine. If you feel that it's a bit off, well, take time with yourself. And it's not about how am I going to justify it to XYZ. No, it's does it sit with you? Does that truth on the outside actually sit with you on the inside, or doesn't it? And if it doesn't, well, then there's something that you need to change, because no one else is going to do it for you.
That seems like a difficult truth, but I think it's so massively important. And to take that time to listen to yourself, as you said. And why does that feel so alien to so many of us? Whereas it should be something which we naturally do every day, which is kind of inbuilt into our routine of who we are. But I don't think it's like that for many. I feel that's a shame, and that is a shift, as you said, which we need to focus in on ourselves and make that decision to listen to inside, which I wish was just more natural.
And it goes back to power. Power is such a big word, because power represents the dynamics of everything in the world, the pulls and the pushes. And as long as you are listening to somebody on the outside without consulting the inner me, well, you've given your power away. And I tell my children this: if ever there's an adult, any adult, it doesn't matter who it is, if it's a teacher, if it's the father of a friend of yours, or the mother of a friend of yours, if it's the postman, if it's the whoever, the neighbor, whoever it is, if there's something that they are doing and you're not feeling quite sure about it, or their behavior is a bit strange, or it's not okay, I said, you run away, you go away, you leave him immediately. You just walk away. And so I'm trying to, because otherwise, I teach them power, what it is, and that ultimately, if we give it, you're giving away your power, because you're allowing that person to do something to you, to impact you in a certain way, which doesn't sit with you, but you're not doing anything about it. And I think there's no age to learn that.
Thank you.
We've got Audrey.
From Audrey, yeah. A culture of failure friendly for children. Well, there you go. Learning it's okay to fail, and that's how we learn.
Definitely, Audrey. Yeah. It's and that's probably very much of an Anglo-Saxon. Somebody said that to me yesterday. Oh, that's really Anglo-Saxon. So this person is half American and half Swiss. And they were saying, I was saying that I started rowing earlier this year, rowing on the lake, and it's called sculling, isn't it, with 2 oars? And I was saying, it's amazing, because we've done like about 20 hours, the first 20 hours, and there's no discussion around team spirit. And then my friend says, oh, but that's very Anglo-Saxon. So, this failure-friendly culture, I mean, that would be just so... Can you imagine how that would transform us? Like our lives, how we would express ourselves, how society would transform, how organizations would be run. There would be so much more compassion, and we would be so much more higher performing, because we would naturally bring in diverse thinking, diverse solutions, and we'd be so much more creative. Yeah,
I'm so surprised. I know we're not going to do bad publicity about the rowing club, but surely the first thing to do is that team spirit.
Yeah.
A couple of, icebreakers and team games after the day at work, or I'm presuming you do this either early or at the end of the day. But yeah, shame, because I think that's so fundamentally important, to have that essence of regrouping before you do something like that. But
it's so much about acceptance, isn't it? I mean, I was with I have 4 brothers and sisters. We were 5 at home. I know that's nothing compared to Audrey, who was 8 and whose father was one of 14. But we were 5, and my mother had the 5 of us in 7 years, so we were very close in age. And but we had all our, there's that term, pecking order. And when you're in the pecking order, you're given a box. There you go. That's no, Debs, you don't sit at the head of the table, because you're number 2 in the pecking order. So Debs sits over there, not over here. Yeah, I'm making caricature out of it, but it's a bit like that. It's, there are things that, there's those expectations, and if you put those first before what it is that you want, then there's disconnect, and you're giving your power away. We've got Hedden.
So in kindergarten, they work with the invisibility, but when they go to school, some other elements take charge. I remember my own kids, we, the parents, taught them to stick to their beliefs, who they are. And when puberty hits, the negative self-talk comes in and disturbs their thinking. Oh, adolescence. Yeah, that changes everything with the hormones as well, doesn't it? Thank you for that, Hedden.
Yeah. And social media doesn't help.
Oh.
Does it?
No, that's a whole other ball game, isn't it?
Well, that's really, you see, it's a bit of it's a shame, isn't it? They work with the indivisibility.
Oh, sorry, I said invisibility.
Oh no, individuality. Yeah, you see that. So they, at the beginning, at the start of your life, they lie to you. They're like, yeah, you can be totally individual. You can be yourself, your unique self for this life here and this earth plane. But then that kind of like changes from when you go to school.
Well, I feel some of us survive, as I call it. I feel some people survive. You have playful kind of adults sometimes who I feel like are the children who have survived.
Yes. No, I mean, it's not all dark, and and I have to say, my son is 13 and a half, and he's got some cool, he's got some cool teachers, and social media is also great because they can do so much research on things, and they can share it with the class. And I think, yeah, you're right. It depends a lot on the teachers as well. But I think, like, also the school is still within the system, and because I work in corporations, I'm kind of a bit obsessed with that. So it's like still the majority of corporations, and even the younger ones. I'm not saying all of them. There are a lot of great companies out there, but then you have those who are trying to be great and trying to be cool. Such as Google, such as Apple, but it's like they're just initiatives, so it looks good. Oh, because I could be the go-to employer, but actually they're not fundamentally looking to change the power and control and the top-down mechanisms.
We've got Audrey as well, who says it's the basis of computer programming. Nothing works first time, not Anglo-Saxon, just a way of reaching our goals, whatever they are.
You hit it on the nail on the head, Audrey. It's the basis of computer programming. So what I've done is I've basically wiped off my programming, and I've reprogrammed myself, done a reset.
I think that's quite exciting. I love that.
Yeah, it is. It is very cool. It is very cool. And don't get me wrong, it doesn't mean there are not days where I'm just like, you know, but we all have days anyway where we're like, whatever program we're in, right? So might as well be in the right program if you can, you know. So yeah, no, but I mean, programming, and we can, you know, I'm no one special. I'm not any special than you, Jess, than you, Audrey, than you. Like, we're all equally special, and
I was going to say, we are special though.
Yeah,
we're all special.
We are all special. That's what I mean. And we all have. We really do have. You know, ultimately, it's this. That's what I feel. At least I feel that it's our duty to connect with ourselves and to be the best versions of ourselves for ourselves first. And I think we can quit lying to ourselves. I had to quit lying to myself. But I had a packet of lies. I had actually I had truckloads of lies. But I had to kind of, you know, let go. Yeah. And it is, but we can all do it, you know, we can all choose. I really do believe it is choice. Doesn't mean it's easy. Doesn't mean like you can go, oh, well, then you've decided that. So then, well, yeah, I'll just cross you off my list. And it's not about that. It's really about you first. And when you is good, the others are good. And also your tribe will change, because with that comes also the releasing of, the letting go of friendships and relationships, or the transformation of relationships and friendships that no longer serve you. And people who are used to the dynamic that they've had with you, and then when you start reprogramming, they're like, huh? It's like, you know, what's that? You know, what, Debs, you don't normally, what's the matter with you? Like, you know, you get off your high horse or whatever, you know? And it's like, I'm not on my high horse. I'm just being me now. And this is really, you know, and if you don't like it, it doesn't matter. It's just me now. So I've released 2 very old friendships earlier this year. And I thought it was going to be really scary, and it was going to create a huge void in my life. And I'll tell you what, it was so easy to do, number one. The one of 12 years, I had a good cry for a day, and then I was over with that. And I just realized that, gosh, when I release these relationships that are no longer serving me, I'm actually giving myself back the space and attention and time and energy to me, what I had given to them. And then on the other hand, I'm meeting some beautiful people, beautiful souls that I've met in the last 2 years. Unbelievable. Including you, Jessica. But I need
likewise. Oh, I love what you've written, Hadin. So you have to like being with you. That's very true, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
I really enjoyed listening to what you said earlier as well, Deborah, about not okay days. You know, you spoke about the days when you feel that you're not doing so great. You listen to your insides and you're, you know, this is not a good day, or I'm not doing well, and you accept that. So was that the third pillar, I think you said? And I remember, as you said, we both had that period where we both just didn't feel right. Yeah. And it was so wonderful to be able to say that to each other and to share that, because it's something which, you know, I'm fine. What's that word? And I feel that was so nurturing and such a gift to be able to just share with each other and have that. It's so silly, isn't it? It's only a few words saying, you know, I'm not doing great. I'm not fine. And that was such a release, which I found crazy. So it was nice that you shared that.
But that goes back to kindness. You know, it's about being kind to one another. And in the relationships where we don't feel comfortable enough to be able to say, I'm not having a good day. or there's something on my mind, there's something on my heart, or I don't want to actually see anyone today. You know, I remember my son, Gabriel. So back in the day, he was 6 or 5 or 6, and his father was telling him off. And he said, and his father said something like, "Oh, don't be so ridiculous," or something like that to Gabriel, right? He was little, and he was sitting at the kitchen table, and Gabriel looks at his father and he goes defiantly, and he says, "It's the one who says it who is." And I was just like, wow, that is so cool. That's exactly it. It's the one who says it who is. So he watched his father, say these words, and he realized that actually they didn't define him at all. It was just his father who was saying them. And so he said it in French. So celui qui le dit qu'il est is the one who says it who is. And I just think that was so beautiful and so pure and so true. And if we could no longer take anything personally, because it belongs to the person who said it or did it. I mean, can you imagine how empowering that is?
At that age as well.
Yeah. Oh, but kids are amazing, aren't they?
They are. I just want them all to keep it and listen to that element of themselves, that it doesn't get lost through, as we were speaking about, through adolescence, etc. Because it's so important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, well, we're 4 minutes. I mean, is there anything that you'd like? How would you like me to wrap up this session, Jessica?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for giving this time to our group and for sharing. I really think your story is inspirational and that we can all learn something from it. So thank you so much. Thank you so much to those who came as well and who will listen after as well. I think there's so many, none of us are perfect, but there's so much work we can do on ourselves. And once again, thank you, Deborah, for making that, putting it on the table and giving us different pieces to think about ourselves and how we can work on ourselves, because it is a journey through life. And I feel mindfulness is a very powerful tool that we don't always open up to or listen to because of being pre-programmed or whatever. So this was something which I think we can all take something away. So thank you so much.
Well, the pleasure was mine and the honor, and I had so much fun with you, Jessica. And I'd just like to leave it with one piece. Perhaps I'd like to leave you with an exercise with yourself, a self-reflection exercise, which is, what are your beliefs around mindfulness? So I shared mine earlier on. So what are your beliefs around mindfulness? So belief is like, I'm leading a healthy life, which I believed I was leading a healthy life because I was eating mindfully and doing my yoga and doing physical exercise, when in fact I was burning out. So I think, or another exercise that we could do, which is helpful for everyone, which is, what are your boundaries? What boundaries? What is it that you accept? What is it where is it that you draw that line? And actually write it out. I did this about a year ago. I need to revisit it myself, because it's also nice to revisit and go, well, what are your boundaries? What is okay for you and what is not okay for you? But write it out nice and clearly. Maybe you just have like 2, maybe you have 10, doesn't really matter, but it's really crystal clear, because then when it's crystal clear in your head, then you can be also more mindful when you speak to others and how others speak to you.
How about going off that, you just inspired me again, that we have a mindfulness journal. So, because what I think might be interesting is to see what notes you make now, but say that, maybe in a year or even 2 years, how those boundaries and everything have changed through your growth.
Yeah, exactly. It's an ongoing quest, isn't it?
I'm going to go and get a mindfulness journal now.
Yay! Mindfulness journal. I love that. That's really and that helps a lot. Writing helps a lot to process things and to move and to clear our heads. Just like put it out there. Just
and drawing too.
Drawing.
I feel drawing, you can release a lot through art.
Especially you as an artist. Yeah.
It feels good though. Sometimes through pictures, I feel that a lot can come out as well, because sometimes I feel we can feel blocked as well by words. Words can become a stress. Yeah. In fact, knowing what's the right thing to write in our mind can take over what in fact we just want to release.
Yeah. And please get the book Lost Connections. Don't worry, I don't get any commission. I don't know the guy. But it's so helpful. It brings a light where you're like, of course, he talks about the lost connections and how we can reconnect with self and with others. And it's often by serving others that we can reconnect with self. Or it could be the other, because I was serving others, but I hadn't reconnected with myself. But that was because it was a bigger issue. I actually I lost myself. I actually never I never knew myself. So I had to start from the beginning. And it really helps. It's very comforting, that book. And it's true that we are whole beings. We're not just like a piece of this or a diagnosis of that, or we live completely. So how can we find our wholenessness again?
I like that word. Works for me.
There's a lot of words in there. Wholenessness.
Whole, yeah, to be whole, yeah.
Wholeness. Anyway. And yeah, so Lost Connections by Johann Hari. I think it's a lovely read, and it helped me a lot.
Thank you, Deborah. So now we've even got homework. I love it. Self-homework. So don't forget that, everybody. Thank you so much again. And we can follow you on Leading Dragons. Yeah.
And follow me on Leading Dragons. Please reach out if you want to have a chat. Everything is confidential. I'm here to, honestly, what I've been through and what I'm still like, as a journey. I haven't arrived. There's nowhere to arrive to, I don't think. I'm here. Reach out to me, and I'm here to listen, to be a helping hand, and if I can assist you, I'm here with my heart and spirit and my dragon. Thank you. Thanks, Jessica. Thank you for everyone for coming along. Bye. Have a great day.